Hi, this is Carla Finnison, and this is my inquiry project blog for interpersonal communication ethics, distance and demand theories as portrayed in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. For Chapter 7 of our text, interpersonal communication has three assumptions, and I think as is prevalent throughout the chapters of our text, this particular ethic and the corresponding theories of demand and distance are not presented as the end-all be-all for communicating interpersonally, but definitely they provide suggestions and protocols for having meaningful, intimate relationships in your life. So basically the premise of interpersonal communications ethics is that parties within a relationship have an overarching responsibility to managing the relationship and not the other. Put in other words, it is your job to contribute to the relationship. It is not your job to fix or control the other person. I believe, any Yahoo articles you can find would certainly support that. But definitely from an ethics point of view, the focus of this particular ethic and theories certainly emphasizes the need for controlling your own actions with the mindset that your responsibility is making sure that that overarching responsibility to the relationship is met first and foremost. As I mentioned earlier, as presented on the screen, interpersonal communication is only one form and certainly not the form of communication. Nourishing the relationship should be first and foremost with the goal of the ethic, and nourishing the relationship shouldn't come with ancillary self-serving goals such as advancing one's career through a relationship, or using a current example, helping someone politically. So the relationship should be authentic and genuine and not used as a secondary mode of advancement. And then lastly, as I mentioned earlier, acknowledging that there are additional ways, multiple ways to study interpersonal communication, but for my purposes, I will be focusing on intimate relationships and the effects and impacts of demand and distance. Our quote listed on the page, "It is burden that adds meaning to a well-lived life." This can be found in Chapter 7 of our text. And basically, I interpret that to mean having meaningful relationships doesn't come without burdens. It doesn't come without problems. But it is within those problems and our managing of them that we find meaning. And that meaning can transform your life into something higher than just yourself. So the two theories that I have focused on, distance and demand. The text defines distance as limiting the demand one places upon the other, which allows for relational distance. Distance prevents what Martin Buber refers to as overrunning. So distance means just that, giving the other person space, giving the other person literal and figurative space to be themselves and live their lives, knowing that you are one component of their larger narrative within the relationship. And demand forces the other to fit the other's approval, which erodes authenticity of the relationship and stunts its natural evolution. So demand in this case, again, literally means, the types of demands that I believe we've all fallen victim to placing on other people. You need to act this certain way. You need to have this particular type of opinion. You need to spend this much time with me. Whatever demand that you can place on someone else, there's typically an inverse relationship to distance. So the more you demand of another person, the more you're limiting the relative distance. And it is within this inverse relationship that problems can occur. And as we'll find later in the presentation, the benefit of limiting demand through intentional distance can create long-lasting, happy memories between the here and there, meaning the start of the relationship and, the ending of the relationship. Some limits of our interpersonal skills that our texts address is that we can never forget that we do not own the relationship. It is a commingling of two people, not a tangible item that can be owned by one or the other. Constant demands made of the other transform interpersonal communication from attentiveness to possessiveness and control. Again, as we'll see later, when demand exceeds distance, domestic violence and infidelity are two of the outcomes that can come from that behavior. As we'll see, studies conducted on the interpersonal process of demand and the subsequent behavior of withdrawal do evolve into domestic violence and infidelity. You'll see below a link to that particular study. It was 2015 study that was actually published in the Journal of Family Psychology, and kind of highlights some of the unfortunate side effects of too much demand and not enough distance. I will not go into too many details out of respect for anyone who may have been a victim of domestic violence or infidelity, but certainly as it relates to our interpersonal communication ethics, this is worth a read. And the film, again, that I chose is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Very quickly, the plot, the two main characters, Joel and Clementine, these are two quirky, opposite end of the spectrum characters who meet, become infatuated, and when the expectations of the other are not met, they seek out the help of Lacuna. And again, this is kind of sci-fi fiction-y love story. So Lacuna is a medical facility that has patented technology that allows patients to come in and have very specific painful memories erased from their mind. Clementine chooses to have Joel erased from her memory. As Joel learns of his erasure from Clementine's mind, he in turn seeks to have his own memories erased. But as he's going through the erasure process, he realizes that it's within the memories, or as we mentioned earlier, between the here and there of the relationship, that he came to the realization that he didn't want to forget her. Even as painful as it was, it still contributed to a larger part of himself, and he decided that he wanted to be with her at all costs. In terms of our relationship ethic, he decided he wanted to put the relationship first. So in the following clip, this is actually a clip towards the ending of the film, and at this point both characters have had their memories erased. They coincidentally meet back up again, so there's this familiar connection that they have that they can't quite put their finger point on, and they meet again, and Clementine again is self-professing to have these flaws, to which Jim Carrey's character Joel says, okay, I can deal with them, we're gonna work through this, I want you. And then you'll eventually see Clementine coming around to the same conclusion. And it really shows the power in surrender and saying, okay. So again, here is the clip of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. It's approximately 2 minutes.
I'm sorry about all this. God, I'm a little confused. I don't really think I can be here. Why? It was nice meeting
So, again, as we can see in the film, there is a certain release and relief within the two characters conceding to, okay, they both are going to come with their flaws, but they both agree that the relationship is greater than the sum of their flaws. And the moment they reach that freedom is the moment that they become available and open to the relationship. I believe you're, as a viewer, able to see the acceptance of distance without demand in play within those 2 minutes. So to take a step forward and conclude the presentation, although interpersonal communications ethics is complex and requires an amount of selflessness at the cost of preserving the relationship, there is a process that the text defines that can help ensure long-term relational health. And it is a dialogic process, and the 3-step process is situated within respecting the limitations of demand and the freedom of distance. It is very, I think, self-explanatory and simple, but of course, listening, being attentive, and negotiating those limits of demand and distance, although they are simple, they are very much more complicated to present in real life the moment we become fearful or try to control something that really we can't. So again, the dialogic process for success in interpersonal communication ethics would include listening, becoming attentive to our partner, and negotiating those aspects that we may find problematic. Again, some of the reference sources I used and have include the text, the Journal of Family Psychology article listed as footnote number 2, and then lastly the YouTube link to Internal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Again, my name is Carla Finnison. I thank you for being patient and participating with me on my quest to discover interpersonal communications ethics and demand and distance.